series of messages as we begin this series this morning, talking about the domino effect and how one event impacts so many others and so much of the future. Lord, these are important words that we're going to hear. May they truly sink into our hearts. Lord, may we take from this place good things that will help us as we serve you from day to day. Lord, we love you. Thank you for your love for us. You have blessed us so abundantly, and we just express our thanks this morning. And may you be honored and glorified in our lives and in all that happens in this place, we pray. With Denise, she's not here this morning, just intestinal stuff going on with her with 2 weeks in a row. And last time I talked to her, I so want to be back in church. Lord, just be with her. May she know that we are praying for her. And thankfully we have the outlet now with our YouTube channel so she can actually be a part of this and watch this service. Lord, we just pray that you just put your hand of healing upon her as well. Lord, be with Jeff now as he comes to share your word. May our hearts and minds be open for what you have for us. We pray in Jesus' name.
So I want to start a new series that I have titled The Domino Effect, Breaking the Cycle. So the question really becomes, what is the domino? And the simplest answer is this. It's a chain reaction where a single event sets off a series of similar or related events. Now, this event could last for a few minutes, it could last decades, it could last generation upon generation, as we will see in the series. Now, in order for a chain reaction to occur, there needs to be a catalyst, a starting point, which is more often than not started with a bad decision. Like, you think that's cool, just hold my beer. Some of you know exactly what I'm talking about, okay? Obviously, that doesn't happen all the time. That is not always the case. For instance, according to the group Fidelity Charitable, who do studies of families, they say that children are twice as likely to enter the same profession as their parents. Later in the same study, it says the rate increases up to 7 times for those from the wealthiest families. So if the parents hold a very high income job, the kids are 7 times more likely to enter into that profession. So again, not every domino effect starts with a bad decision. However, according to another group called Science Direct, they say children with criminal parents are roughly 1.8 to 2.4 times more likely to engage in criminal behavior compared to those with non-offending parents. While rates vary, studies such as the Cambridge study show that 49% of boys with criminal fathers develop a police record by early adolescence, a number that rises to 63% if both parents are offenders. Now, the point I want to make through all of this is that we have the power to break the cycle if we so choose to. We don't have to follow in our fathers or our parents' footsteps. We don't have to go along with the crowd. And given that, today I want to look at the fall of man by looking at basically the lives of Adam and Eve all the way to Noah. And I want to show you how choices made today can negatively affect future generations. Now, we know that God created man on day number 6. After some time passed, he created woman. And then we get to Genesis chapter 3, which talks about the fall of man. Now, we all know the story. God placed man in the Garden of Eden, and he basically told them, hey, don't eat from these 2 trees. Sadly, the serpent begins to deceive Eve by saying that, well, eating from the trees are not really all that bad. So we get to verse 6 and 7. The woman was convinced. She saw that the tree was beautiful and its fruit looked delicious, and she wanted the wisdom it would give her. So she took some of the fruit and ate it. Then she gave some to her husband who was with her, and he ate it too. At that moment, their eyes were opened, and they suddenly felt shame at their nakedness, so they sewed fig leaves together to cover themselves. Understand something important here. Their disobedience stemmed from a level of envy. She wanted what she did not have. She wanted something that did not belong to her, which was the knowledge of God. Adam and Eve's momentary lapse of judgment was the catalyst that allowed sin to enter the world. Their punishment for this decision was banishment from the garden along with some other things. However, if I was God, I would have turned those fig leaves they sewn together into poison ivy. That would have been a great punishment. But I digress. Okay. Now, because of that event, we live in a fallen world. Fallen world means fallen people. Fallen people means you have a lot of bad decisions being made, like these Mensa candidates who decided that instead of carrying the TV up 2 flights of stairs, they catapult it. I wish I could make this stuff up. If I ever ask you guys to help me move, we are not doing this. Okay? I like my TV too much. But here's what I want you to see, okay? If we turn over to Genesis chapter 4, we're going to see that Adam and Eve had 2 kids. Okay, Cain and Abel. This is what we read. When they grew up, Abel became a shepherd, while Cain cultivated the ground. When it was time for the harvest, Cain presented some of his crops as a gift to the Lord. Abel also brought a gift, the best portions of the firstborn lambs of his flock. And the Lord accepted Abel and his gift, but he did not accept Cain and his gift. This made Cain very angry, and he looked rejected. Now remember, Adam and Eve, they ate the fruit which started this bad string of dominoes. But look at what transpires in verse 8. One day, Cain suggested to his brother, let's go out into the fields. While they were in the field, Cain attacked his brother Abel and killed him. What's the old joke? How long was Cain angry with his brother? As long as he was able. Notice, one sin, I'm trying here, okay? One sin opened the door for more sin. The first domino was pushed by Adam and Eve. That collided with their son Cain, whose domino then fell. What's interesting here is that both Cain and Abel had free will. They had the right to choose their destiny. Abel chose to do what was right. He chose the righteous life. He chose to please God, while Cain chose to murder. What's even more interesting is that God warns Cain of this upcoming sin. In verse number 6, why do you look so angry, the Lord asked Cain? Why do you look so dejected? You will be accepted if you do what is right, but if you refuse to do what is right, then watch out. Sin is crouching at your door, eager to control you. But you must subdue it and be its master. Given that, we all live in a fallen world. Sin is crouching at every one of our doors. But we have the ability, like Cain, to subdue it and to be its master. And I want you to notice something, okay? God warned Adam and Eve about not eating the tree, or eating of the tree. They didn't listen. God warns Cain, and he, just like his parents, did not listen. He followed in his father's footsteps. Now, we all understand that. Okay, we get this part. The problem becomes what transpires from all of this. Okay? In Genesis chapter 5, we read the genealogy. It goes like this. Adam, Seth, Enosh, Kenan, Mahalalel, Jared, Enoch, Methuselah, Lamech, and Noah. In that order. Okay? The first generation, Adam and Eve, they were the catalyst. They started this chain reaction. Now there are 9 generations between Adam and Eve and Noah, which means that there are 9 generations of dominoes falling. But here's where things take a serious turn for the worse. In 9 generations, we go from 2 people who were envious of God all the way to full-blown anarchy. Genesis 6:5. The Lord observed the extent of human wickedness on the earth. He saw that everything they thought or imagined was consistently and totally evil. So think about this. Adam and Eve were the beginning of our sin nature, but I would not say that they were completely or totally evil. Yet in 9 generations, we go from one sin, one time to a lot of sin all the time. Now, we get to the story of Noah. Genesis 6:9. Noah was a righteous man, the only blameless person living on earth at the time, and he walked in close fellowship with God. Understand, if my theory is right, Adam and Eve began the sin nature, and they were the catalyst by pushing over the first real sin domino. That domino knocked over another, and then another, and then another, and so on, until it reached Noah. And he made the decision not to follow in his parents' footsteps, or his grandparents' footsteps, or his great. You see, if the world was slowly getting bad, God could have used any one person, because there have been one good person in those 9 generations that God could have started life over again with. However, we don't see that. Thus, I believe each generation got progressively worse, much faster than we thought, much faster than we think. Now, let me show you something. Okay, we go back to the genealogy. Genesis 5:3. When Adam was 130 years old, he became the father of a son who was just like him. That's your curse for all you fathers out there, by the way. You may not want a kid who's just like you, but guess what? God has a sense of humor. You see, many of us wind up being just like our parents. When our parents are bad, chances are the kid is going to be bad. When the parents are good, chances are the kids are going to be good. But what this tells us is that each generation from Adam and Eve all the way to Noah got progressively worse. Each generation followed in their father's footsteps or their parents' footsteps. That is, Noah. And again, he decided to be different. He decided not to follow in their footsteps. The point being is God can't reset the world without a righteous man. God needed a good man. He needed a righteous man. He also needed a man with a good family in order to start the world over again. God can't start the world over again with a horrible, horrible person. That defeats the purpose. So now we go back to Genesis 6:9. Noah was a righteous man, the only blameless person living on earth at the time. Now here's where things get really interesting for me. I'm going to show you a lot of information very quickly. Okay, Genesis 5:4. Adam lived another 800 years, and he had other sons and daughters. Genesis 5:6. Genesis 5:6. Seth lived 807 years, and he had other sons and daughters. Enosh lived another 815 years, and he had other sons and daughters. You see the pattern. There's 9 generations of this. 9 generations where people were living to be 800 years old, and they're having sons and daughters. This means the world is growing exponentially. And then we get to Noah. He's the only blameless person on earth. Now, why did I bring this? What's the point of all this? The point is, we all have the ability to choose our path. We are given free will. We don't have to be like our parents. We don't have to follow in our parents' footsteps. We don't have to go along with the crowd. We can simply stop the sin down the road from falling. Now, I'm not going to lie. It's hard. It's far easier. You all know this, but it's far easier to just go along with whatever everybody else is doing. If you're just going to follow the crowd, it's extremely easy. But it's extremely different. It's extremely difficult to stand up and be something different. Now, think about this in terms of Noah. Each generation leading up to him got progressively worse. Significantly worse, because now the entire world is corrupt. But he stood up and said, you know what? I'm not going to be like that. Let me give you the reason why. 2 Peter 2:5. And God did not spare the ancient world except for Noah and the 7 others in his family. Noah warned the world of God's righteous judgment. So God protected Noah when he destroyed the world of ungodly people in a vast flood. By choosing to do what is right, we save ourselves